In all, it seems rather conclusive. Paul McCartney is dead.
As for Paul McCartney, he's alive and well, and unconcerned about rumors of his death.
Derek Taylor, press officer of the Beatles and Apple Records.
Everyone's uptight about this. It's a negative trip, this is. It's a very bad trip for everyone. It's death, and it doesn't have any point, it doesn't have any purpose. It's a death trip, and it's no good, and it'll lead you into nothing.
George Martin, arranger, producer for the Beatles.
He's alive and well, and with his wife and their 2 children, and the dog Martha. Ringo and Paul and their wives went to see Mary Hopkin at the Savoy. Well, there were numerous press people there. His way of life continues normally. He goes to see his father. He goes to soccer matches. He does the McCartney things. He is McCartney.
John Lennon, charter member of the Beatles.
It's just a little story, that's all it is. You know, it's a short story.
Mike McGear, Paul's brother.
Actually, yes, he died in an earthquake in Mexico in 1917. No, actually, it's my baby that is doubling for him. My little baby girl will be the 4th Beatle soon.
Lois Eastman, Paul's sister-in-law.
I can't understand it at all, to tell you the truth. I think it's a lot of reading in, and it's really stupid. I can't really understand it, to tell you the truth.
Dr. Oscar Tossi, audiologist, University of Michigan, who compared a recent supposed McCartney interview with an older, genuine one. Although he says it may be the same person, he's quick to point out that it is by no means conclusive.
I am directing an experiment to check for the reliability of the method. This experiment is funded by the Department of Justice and is not yet completed. However, with the samples that we obtained, there are good chances that it's the same person.
Now, would there be any change in a person's voice as he grew older?
Well, if the person is an adult, I don't think that the change is significant, because the vocal tract is maintained more or less in the same size and elasticity and so forth. In the same way that the face of a person could change through the years because the different type of tissues and so, but will not change drastically.
And then there's John Lennon, who says,
It's just a little story, that's all it is. You know, it's a short story.
And of course we would be remiss if we did not present Paul McCartney.
I was barefooted because it was a nice day, and if it's a nice day, I don't like wearing shoes. I wore a black carnation on Magical Mystery Tour, and the other 3 wore red. The reason for that is that they didn't have any more red ones, and I just got handed a black one, so I stuck that in my buttonhole, you know. If the conclusion you reach is that I'm dead, then you're wrong, because I'm alive and living in Scotland.
Thank you, Mr. McCartney. Where did it start? Well, so far there are 3 reports. 1, a student in Ohio. He cannot be found, nor can he be identified. A student at the University of Delaware. His name is John Summer. He supposedly submitted a thesis pertaining to the death rumor. Our investigators have been unable to turn up a John Summer or John Sumner who submitted any such thesis at any university or college in Delaware. The 3rd source is Fred Labor, writing for the Michigan Daily. He would not consent to having his voice used on our air. However, we can report on the interview. Mr. Labor, where did you get the idea for the material and the article?
I was looking at the LPs, and some of the things had begun to fall in place. I heard a rumor concerning his death, or death amongst the Beatles, and it all pointed to Paul.
After this, there was some conversation about the factualness of some of the statements made, and he was rather vague concerning their origin. One point was made. You state in the article that you are grateful for the assistance of Mary Ann Martin, illegitimate daughter of George Martin, arranger and producer of all the Beatles records. Where did this information come from?
Well, I made that one up.
So much for the credibility of Mr. Labor's article. Going further in our rebuttal. It's claimed that only 5 people know of the tragedy and the plot to keep it a secret. They are, in order of importance, John Lennon, George Martin, Ringo Starr, George Harrison, and the late Brian Epstein. The arithmetic formula used to arrive at this number does not coincide with ours. What of the police? What of the garage man who hauled away the car? Certainly someone hauled it away. What of the bystanders? It occurred in the city. What of the coroner? What of the Bureau of Statistics, who must issue a death and burial permit? This is WKBW at 1520 on your Buffalo dial. What of Jane Asher? According to Lobor, she was bought off. The coroner never appeared, and the absence of a death permit means, he says rather sinisterly, he must be buried illegally. McCartney is said to have left the studios in his Aston Martin in a fit of anger. Again, our London Bureau comes into play. They say that McCartney did not purchase an Aston Martin until just after the first of the year 1967. Furthermore, why should he drive off into the night to drive home? He lives less than 2 blocks from the recording studios. The American Safety Council would have us believe that most accidents occur within 25 miles of home. Be that as it may. What of the look-alike contest? The fact exists. There is a William Campbell. He did win the contest. He cannot be found today. It is a fact. We cannot find him, nor can anyone else. That cannot be discounted. However, John Lennon says,
Just a little story, that's all it is. You know, it's a short story.
The clue is in all the LPs, John, the visual ones and the lyrical ones. What's the explanation for all those things?
It's just a little story, that's all it is. You know, it's a short story.
Thank you, John. He also says, quote, we're a con as well. We know we're conning them because we know people want to be conned. They've given us the freedom to con them. Let's stick that in there, we say. That'll start them puzzling. I'm sure all the artists do when they realize it's a con. I bet Picasso sticks things in. Right in your ear, John. End of quote.
It's just a little story, that's all it is. You know, it's a short story.
It may be a con, but we frankly doubt if there is a coincidence. What of Billy Shears? We can't find him, nor can we find any person of fame that bears that name. We cannot find anyone at Apple or any of their related offices who are even willing to admit the man is alive or indeed ever existed. We do know, however, that up until a couple of weeks ago, the telephone number on the front cover of Magical Mystery Tour in London was billed to one William Shears. However, his mailing address and the signature that was attached to the checks in response to the invoices from the phone company are not known to us, nor will they give us that information, the telephone utility, that is. We do know that now the number is no longer registered to Billy Shears. It is now registered to a reporter employed by the Manchester Guardian. He would not consent to an interview nor the use of his name.